So, hey, it's me. You know, that person that keeps trying to help us through the darkness, being the light. And it's funny, I'm my own light coming out of my own darkness. but, I don't know. I was thinking of how we affect one another. It's like our stories intertwine. And I had just watched this movie, and at the very beginning, I was having a thought. And then that whole movie just blew my damn mind. And then I read something after it, and it was almost like it just put everything together for me, and it all boils down to grieving. And the hardest grief to endure is when you loved somebody with all your heart, and you had happy moments. You had a life with that person. But in the end, you both made each other sour. You both made each other less than what you would have been apart. But in all of that, lives happened before the introduction and the existence together, and then the toxicity and the coming apart, and it's almost like walking through a curtain. You walked in and it was light, and then it became dark, and then almost like nothing, to begin to see the light and go again. And it's strange because I don't know if this is making sense to anybody. I mean, I see it in my head, the curtain, the difference. But when that person begins to fade, their smell, their touch, their sound, they're not dead in the world that you're in. But if you've lost touch with each other in a huge, vast population, very small chance you'll ever find each other again. So you're dead to one another. We can grieve and mourn the living because they're still here, but they're not here with us. But it's funny when those curtains close on those situations. It's that time when it's time to let it go. And when you let it go, you allow that new light, that new life. And it is almost like a piece of you dies, because of course you're not going to be the same in the next situation that you were in the past situation. But you're always going to be who you are right now, and then you're going to continue to progress through who you're becoming. Still don't know if this is making sense to anybody, but for whatever reason, I need to share it. I mean, I tried to make a video yesterday, and I didn't feel like being on camera, so I had set something up, and I put my microphone off to the side with me, and it was the strangest thing. When I went to listen to it to make sure it wasn't messed up, it sounded so far away, and you could only hear blips of what I was saying, but my microphone was right there. And I thought, that's so strange. And then even there's someone I'm talking to at a long distance, and we can't talk at the moment. Electronics are messing up. And it's just, everything is very surreal right now. But it's all almost like the past is finalizing. The understanding and the notion of the grieving, no matter how toxic that situation was. And it's not even grieving that person, that relationship. It's the loss of me. It's the loss of who I was. I loved everything about my life in those moments. I had aerial silk. I had a garden. I had a goat, a fucking asshole goat. We dug a hole and made a redneck swimming pool. I wanted a saltwater pool. And as vile and vicious as that relationship was, these are the things that I wanted and I got. and we worked for those things. A lot of people say, oh, you came out from under a rock, and I seriously did. Time kept going, and I lived in, it wasn't a fairy tale. It was just a moment in the existence of a world evolving around me. And then I came out of that, and there were different musicians, and life had changed, and I would visit home and nothing was the same. And it's all gradually changed. And there's been moments of me feeling like I'm going insane. At one point I said the other day, I feel like I was murdered at some point in the past and I'm living in a nightmare. And it's all been just jumbling around me. But to come to the conclusion of grief, especially when you're grieving for what you feel like is the devil, who that person was, what that person brought. And I always have to remind myself, it's not what he did to me, it's what he taught me about me. It's not that he was the most vile person in the world. But you know, a lot of us need to get to a point where we humble ourselves, because we can push and provoke in haughty ways, snooty attitudes, act as if we deserve more than what we truly need. You know, to push ourselves. Because I allowed that to happen by choosing to be that strong, independent woman. And in a way, I pushed him to push me to prove I was. And it's almost like I wrote the story for myself of, this is who I am. I have a cape. I'm a hero. I'm a healer. I'm a savior. I'm a martyr. I'm the best of the best. And in the end, when it came down to me proving it to myself, it was all a facade. It was all something to prove to everybody. I didn't need anybody. And all of that was to not get hurt. And in the end, a lot of tears, a lot of growth and understanding. But it's weird because the more that the story progresses, if I shared the story of my life, my mom always said you should write a book, and I was like, oh, one day. I'm busy living it right now. Because there's been moments that have just been astronomically insane. And most people are like, what? I don't believe that. I mean, my life has been riddled with street performers and odd encounters with individuals that were very enlightening at the time. And none of this was fueled by hallucinogenic drugs or hardcore street drugs or anything out of this world. It was nothing that was mind altering. It was simply my life, but it was my life lived with a meaning, with a journey, with adventure, exploration. And it's very similar to like movies I've seen, you know, like Mirror Mask by Jim Henson. Awesome movie. And I was talking to someone today about the movie Brazil, another like theatrical, whoa, mind-blowing. Would have never seen it that way. But when you stay in one spot, it's almost like the story buffers. There's nothing to be written when there's nothing being done. And I think we all forget that we write our own stories. And I've been dwelling so long on the past script that I've been teeter-tottering in between then, now, and in the future. so busy looking at the past that I can't even consider anything beyond the moment of trying to breathe. You know, I had someone ask me today, because I was at the lowest of the lowest, don't you want to know what your grandkids look like? Don't you want to know what you look like when you're older? And all I could respond was, I've not thought that far ahead. I've always lived in the moment. And maybe it's living in the moment while everyone else is living somewhere else, but by trying to live in the moment, I was stuck in the past. I really don't know if this is making sense to anyone. I know I keep saying that, but it's like an epiphany for myself of how to release that. And it is simply to accept that grief comes in so many different forms. We can look crazy. We can look on the verge of self-destruction. We can look dangerous to others. We can put on a fake happy smile and no one knows the difference, and then just not show our faces ever again. Some people can just accept it, I guess. But it's strange that you can go a lifetime grieving and never even know why you're grieving. Like I said in the very beginning, it wasn't me grieving him. It was the loss of my life. When I first came back, like I went anywhere. When I first came back home, left that situation, everyone kept telling me, when you get well, when you get well. And I'm thinking, I'm not sick. I was living life. Well, when you change your way of thinking because you've been brainwashed to see things this way, I didn't feel brainwashed. I was a willing participant in my life. Oh, you just have to forget all of that. My life? It's hard to explain to people that you can't unlive those moments. You can't flip a switch and take away all the trauma. People say time makes it better. That's if you can make it through the chaos in your mind. Because it's not easy being traumatized. A lot of people don't ever really experience the concept of being traumatized because they are the ones who are traumatizing others. And that's due to fear, weakness, jealousy, envy, devilish and demonic ways of being. You know, and I keep being reminded that some people are here to remind us to love ourselves, while some of us are here to remind others what love feels like. And it's a constant dance. At some point you are the teacher, and at one point you are the student, regardless of what spectrum you're learning on, I guess. But please just remember that if you feel like you're losing it, it's okay to grieve. It's okay to miss a part of you that endured something so bad you've kind of locked it away within yourself. And in time it does surface. It does heal. I mean, I even drove by a place today that pulled back a memory for me so big that just took my breath away. And then I thought, wow, those people did do that to me. And it's amazing what so-called friends can add to the trauma of your life. So just know you're not alone, and let yourself grieve and just love yourself. I know it's hard, but all of us have to accept our past. however you do it, it's up to you. I've chose not to kick, scream, fight, more so just battle and war in my head until I think I got it. I think I understand me a little bit more for once. So I'm going to leave it on that note. Like I said, hopefully that helps and it makes sense to somebody, because it was one hell of a rabbit hole. Peace out.